guys! I hope that you guys are doing amazing wherever you are in the world. My name is Shikha and I welcome you to my channel. I'm so grateful as always that you guys are listening, subscribing, and commenting on my channel. I appreciate the support. If you guys are interested in supporting me further, you're more than welcome to go to my Patreon site. It is in the description below and you can check out what I offer on there. In this video, I wanted to speak to you guys about boundaries. As an INFJ, as a female, as a person of Asian descent, as a girl who's always told to be good, to be nice, not to rock the boat, things like that, I've always had a really hard time having good boundaries, creating good boundaries around me. And I'm noticing that a lot as I get older and I realize the importance of boundaries, and I'm realizing how terrible my boundaries were and are right now even. And were in the past. They were terrible in the past. I'm getting better at it, but I'm still not there yet. And there's a lot more work I have to do in my life in order to create better boundaries, in order to make sure people understand that my time is my time, my space is my space, my body is my body, and all of the things that are my things are my things, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they can just come and touch my body or touch my space or touch my time, and I'll be fine with that, right? A lot of that has to do, obviously, with doing these videos as well and putting myself out there on a regular basis. I'm noticing that a lot of people assume that just because I am on YouTube and I'm sharing a lot of stuff about myself, that they have a right to my time, my space, my life, my everything, yeah? And of course, that's not the truth, and that's absolutely false. And so little by little, I'm going to be creating a lot of boundaries in the future. Watch this space, basically, I'm saying, to see how I'm going to stop answering questions and stop messaging people back and all of that stuff little by little. And I'll do another video on this. But little by little, I'm going to create my boundaries again, because I think what happened in my head, I'm imagining, is that I was devaluing my time, my space, and all that stuff because I did not know how to create proper boundaries. And as an INFJ, a lot of us, and as a human being in general, as a female human being especially, I find that men have a really easy time because they can numb themselves very easily, or perhaps they're not really working from their heart space a lot. They have an easier time creating boundaries. They can just say no without feeling guilty about it. Whereas for a female, for a feminine energy, it's so hard because as soon as you say no, there is a deluge of guilt and doubt and anxiety and fear and all of that shitty stuff that just descends upon you and tells you that you're a crappy person. I think that's one of the reasons why I've stayed so open all of this time. Even though my time is limited and I'm getting busier and busier, I'm still answering all these questions, especially when people are being nasty about it. And that's another reason why I'm going to stop answering questions for free, is because I'm noticing that when people get free advice, first of all, they don't listen to it. And also, they become rude about it. And I'm noticing that I'm getting a lot of flack and a lot of negativity and a lot of nasty comments from people because I'm offering all this free advice and because I'm opening myself up to this. So obviously, that's all going to stop. And again, I'm going to do another video on this. So I'm going to talk about how I'm going to stop giving free advice. If you guys want to pay for it, you can pay for it. Most people are not going to pay for it. And that's going to mean that my boundaries are going to stick around, which is great, which is what I'm hoping for. Another thing I wanted to say about boundaries with regards to people in general is that you have no idea what their boundaries are because boundaries are mostly invisible. They're a mental construct and they're different for each person. And I really want you guys to understand that one person might be an extrovert or they might be a different kind of person and they're open and free and their personal space is not as much as another person, or they're more open and you can come closer to them, you can take more of their time and they don't mind, right? Another person, if they're an introvert or if they have a lot of boundaries and issues with that, they don't like anyone coming close to them, they don't like anyone taking up their time, they don't like any of that, especially if they've had traumatic issues in their childhood or if they've had narcissistic parents or parents who are always, coming upon their boundaries and intruding upon their boundaries. You'll notice that different people have different boundaries, and the only way you can figure out what their boundaries are exactly, because they're invisible, is by asking about it, but also obviously having conversations about it, right? Is it okay for me to message you in the middle of the night if I have an issue? It's a really good question to ask your friend, yeah? Because it's not a given that just because you are friends that you can message them randomly at all times of day or call them at all times of day because you broke up with your boyfriend or your boyfriend was mean to you or whatever it might be, right? And this is something that we have to ask before we can just jump into it. It's not that we jump into it and then we're pushed back and then we realize the boundaries. If we're going to intrude upon someone else's boundaries, we have to ask first. If a man is going to touch another woman's breasts or something like that, something intimate, not just a shoulder, even her shoulder, actually, any part of her body, he has to ask her first. It's not that her body is his property or anyone else's property. So that conversation has to happen first. I like you. We've been dating for a couple of days, a couple of times, whatever it might be. May I touch you, kind of thing, right? May I touch you on your shoulder? May I put my hand on your knee? Things like that. What happens in reality is that men will just put their hands on a girl's shoulder or a woman's shoulder or her knee and pretend like everything is fine. And as a female, I've noticed that I actually feel shame because of it, because my boundary is crossed. Instead of saying to that person, don't do that, I'm thinking to myself, there's something wrong with me because I have this random boundary? Obviously, it seems like I'm the only one because other women are fine with men touching their shoulder or their knee. So what is wrong with me? And then all of the blame gets put on that individual who's creating that boundary. The more I learn about boundaries, the more I realize that every individual has an individualized version of their boundaries, right? Everyone's going to have a different version of it because of their life experiences, because of their childhood, because of their lives, because of a billion different factors. It doesn't matter what it is. The reasons don't matter. The fact is, my boundary is this, and that your boundary is that. And that's it. That is the essence of it. You don't have to apologize for having stricter boundaries than others, or you don't have to apologize for having not so strict boundaries, right? If you're fine with more than other people are fine with, that is not your fault, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people are more open than others. Some people are more closed off than others, right? And so different people are going to have different boundaries, and that is, again, another thing that we have to understand when we're dealing with people. First of all, boundaries are invisible, so you have to ask them about it. Second of all, boundaries are very individualized, which means that different people are going to have different kinds of boundaries, right? So some people are going to be very open and really open to the idea of you touching them and doing all that stuff. Some people are really closed off. I am in the second category, obviously. I don't like people coming into my space. I don't like people messaging me. I don't like people taking up my time. But obviously, I was not listening to my boundaries, and I was opening myself up in a way where I don't want to do that anymore. I'm not respecting myself, and it's affecting my emotional health. It's affecting my physical health. It's causing me to be exhausted. More so, I'm not able to give more and more and more time to my creative work because I'm spending all of this time dealing with the emotional exhaustion from answering all these questions from people who are just being nasty when I do answer the question, right? So it's not worth it, and they are not privileged enough to have this kind of information given to them because they're just being rude about it after. So that's it. I'm just cutting all of these people off. I'm cutting everyone off, basically. No one is going to be allowed to ask me any free advice anymore. No one's going to be allowed to ask me any questions anymore, and that's it, right? Again, I said I'm going to do another video on this just so that I can clarify a lot of different details to it. But this is where it comes from. It comes from boundaries. And this is the reason that I wanted to do this video first, is because I didn't just randomly decide, all right, cool, so yeah, I think I'm going to just start charging people for giving advice. Boundaries are the reason. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video as well. It's because you guys are probably, as INFJs, as females, as people in general, are having issues with boundaries because this is something that's coming up over and over again for me specifically. I'm noticing that a lot of people are just trampling all over my boundaries. And I think mainly it's because I'm not valuing my boundaries and my time properly myself. So other people don't have an idea of where my boundaries lie, right? And so that's my mistake. That was my mistake. I did not tell them that this is where my boundary is. And so it's invisible, obviously, but I did not delineate it properly when they do have a conversation with me. So they just trample all over it. And then I'm like, what the hell? Why are you guys doing that? Not realizing that I didn't actually even tell them where my boundaries lie, right? So that's the first conversation that I'm going to have with all of you guys, all the people that messaged me, is that my boundaries have gotten a lot more stricter, and they're just going to get more and more strict in the future, especially since I'm getting a lot of subscribers and a lot of questions and a lot of comments, and I'm really going to have to protect my energy and my time, right? And so this all has to do with boundaries, and I really want you guys to read up on boundaries, to learn more about it, to learn the physical effects of someone trampling on your boundaries. I notice that I get a physical reaction when someone tramples on my boundary. For example, if someone does something that is in my space or in my time, and they do it deliberately and rudely or nastily, then I notice my physical body reacts, that my heart starts clenching, my palms start sweating, I start getting this icky feeling in my body, and I just start feeling like I feel violated, basically. And that's what basically it is. Boundaries are all about you feeling violated because something that was important to you has been trampled over, has not been respected, right? When boundaries are not respected, when you are just pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and that person feels violated, that is what boundaries are all about. And it is really, really good to understand more about boundaries, especially if you guys are an INFJ, or especially if you're a human being on this planet right now. Because really, I'm noticing that more and more people's boundaries are being just violated without any respect, and I really dislike that. I'm really getting angry about it, and I cannot handle it anymore, and I refuse to do it anymore. So if I lose people because of it, that's fine, because my boundaries are more important to me, because my emotional health is more important to me than anything else. All right? I love you guys still. I absolutely adore you, and I'm so grateful that you guys are around. If you guys want to support me on Patreon, you're obviously more than welcome to do so, but you're no longer allowed to ask me any questions unless you're willing to pay for it. I'll do another video on the costs and everything, but most people are not gonna take me up on that offer, so that's fine. I'm more than happy not to answer any questions anymore. Again, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.